something on that. The priorities. See, I'm talking about what works. I'm talking about what works. And part of my debate with whoever, people out of the governor's office, senators, whoever, chancellor of state university or school, you see, we need physical things to leave with our children. You know, we need more than hot air. You see, and one of the reasons some of us work so hard to build this mast is so you can walk in it, you can feel it, you can grab this, you see, so that our children would have something tangible, physical, you know, not just hot air. So what I'm asking is, I need you to make clear that the priorities and the ideas coming from the Sshuraa that we all are part of the Sshuraa that you're talking about. You know that, not you see. And that we need to make sure clear that the ideas feeding into this community Sshuraa nationally as well as statewide as well as locally. You see, the major ideas are coming from the Sshuraa members, people who are part of the Sshuraa. That's where your ideas are coming from. So they're not coming directly from you. They're coming from the brothers and sisters in the Sshuraa. And like I said, this comes from Prophet Muhammad. You know, he did it all the time. You know, so we need to make that point that the ideas and the direction is not coming from Brother Salah. It's coming from the Sshuraa members who are participating. And when you do it like that, you go around in the circle and have that discussion, and eventually, some of that stuff will be so powerful and so good, you and others would say, and I would say, that was a good idea that brother came up with. I mean, that was really, really powerful. Then the sister came with a good idea, and they said, let's go with that.
Yeah, John, can I ask you to clarify something? I understand your apprehension with having events inside the masjid because you want to, the most important thing is, one of the problems we've been having is autonomy. Institutions have their own autonomy. I understand that. But when we have a masjid like masjid here, we opened up its facilities to the believers for this process. I think, are you saying that, I don't think that believers should be forcing something on a masjid, but if a masjid is welcoming,
That's right.
and opening up their institution, I mean, what's wrong with that?
I agree with that.
Well, I'm saying.
I mean, just as a facility.
Okay, yeah, no, what I'm saying, and let me say this, I wouldn't stop nobody from doing so, I'm not trying, but here's what I would say. If you want to change your mentality, you need to get outside the masjid and think outside the masjid. If you want to change your spirit, you want to change the thing, you're going to have to find you a neutral place. We need neutrality. Again, we're not here to be a threatening figure to anybody. We're not here to get even coerced into something in the sense of, you know, you meeting in my space, maybe I don't hear something that y'all like or whatever, and I say, you know, you can't meet here anymore, or whatever, or you know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to be suspicious of imams or anything, but here's what I think historically we can say about us, as community or whatever, that we have sort of bought into the imam as clearly, if nothing else, is the spiritual leader. If they begin to suggest something or say something, or we tend to roll in that direction.
That's right. And sure.
You know, even sometimes when we disagree, we roll in that direction. What I'm saying is we're a young body, inshallah, and we need to figure out how to go and stand on our own feet. Libraries are free. If you need a meeting, go to the library. You can go to community
That's
center.
where we meet.
There are plenty of
We meet in the
places
library.
to go that won't cost you any money and will give you, quote, autonomy. But I'm more interested in neutrality that says we can think and say whatever we want in this space. There has to be no feeling of, no, you better not say that. Right? I think you want to give people in a space where they're free to think. But again, if somebody says, hey, I'm for me, okay, what you want, okay? But if it's me, no, not because I dislike the imam or anything like that either. I want my freedom, okay?
I'm just observing and saying, listen, there's twofold situations here. Brother here brought a very good point in terms of if the doors are open, you're welcome, and you want to work with the masjid based on the Sshuraa, that's one thing. And what you're saying is that we want to have an independent thinking group where we'll be independent of the masjid and we meet somewhere else other than the masjid. There's two-fold situations there, and I think both of them could be very helpful and very beneficial. Either one depends on the city you in. It depends on how the believers want to work with you in terms of what's happening there, but we shouldn't turn either one of them down in terms of what we're doing. So just like, for an example, the NMBC is a national independent organization, which we sometimes goes to the masjid, sometimes we do not go to the masjid, it depends on the reception. And if it's not reception is not there, then we're not there. And then if the reception there, we go there. And then that's where it won't, by we not going there or trying to block, it ain't gonna matter either way, we're gonna be successful if you have a law on your side. And you have faith, go back to the faith you say. If you have the faith and the belief in the law, and faith, it's gonna be successful because the law is already behind it, in spite of the stumbling blocks or whatever you might try to put in the way. So I think twofold situation works very good because you do have some communities around the country who welcome what you're talking about, who would be glad to host you once they have more understanding.
Well, and I think
This
that's
is
what you have
that's
to
my
have.
job.
Sort of,
Yeah, I think we're all on the same page.
Yeah.
We're on the same
Yeah, I
page.
think so.
I think that what you're saying is you should evaluate the environment that you're in.
There you
And
go.
you want to make
Evaluate the
sure
environment.
that you're not going to have intellectual freedom stifled one way or the other. I mean, because you could be at a library or at a public
Have a
place.
worse problem.
And if you say the wrong thing, you mention Islam or Muslim, sometimes I've had that happen to me.
we don't have.
You know, but the point I'm trying to say is, if the masjid is receptive
That's
and you
right.
don't believe there's going to be a stifling of intellectual expression or
That's
opinion,
right.
then it could be good. It could be good. But I think that what you're trying to say, though, is that CWSC is a separate, independent entity, organization, that respects the boundaries of other institutions and organizations. And that we're not going to be waiting to receive permission from a masjid or from an imam or anybody else to do anything that the members of this body wants to move forward on. And at the same time, we want to be friendly, receptive, and part of our core value is alliances. We want to form alliances with whoever wants to work with CWSC.
No, and I would concur, I really concur with all of you, but I am sort of issuing a caution. And definitely there's something that says, you have to keep your own eyes and ears to the ground. And you're going to have to make some determination. Again, not against the masjid, but me just starting out, I'll just go down the street. I'd meet at my house. You know, I would just do that for my own personal sake. Again, neutrality. It's not somewhat about independence, but again, I'd rather be in this position of neutrality. Because even the people who come, or let's say as good as the atmosphere at Masjid Omar is, there's people who do not come. There's people who don't set foot on the ground.
That's true. I know
Okay?
something.
So I'm saying, with neutrality, I can begin to invite anybody in. I don't have constraints on me. And I begin to get away from the fear issues and other things. That's what I'm saying. Neutrality is a resource, a weapon for you, a tool for you. But if they say, hey, we're going to meet at the masjid again. Am I going to disown you? No. Do what you want to do. I'm not. But again, I'm saying it again, and we're getting down to the close of this thing here for today. And tomorrow, and I like to think that tomorrow we could end with these tasks, assignments, but a clear understanding of what is the next step. What is the next step? That's going to come from you. And I didn't come here with one. I'm open, I'm free, I'm not ready to reject anything, but we got to get it on the table. So tonight, we got to start thinking about, again, let's say the way forward. Where are we going from here? What message are we going to leave here with that we're going to take to everybody else? I can expound on the radio, because at this point, it's been my message. But now, I've
You need a
invited
broad
you here.
message. That's right. You need a
So-
broad message.
I'm still, so what message do we take to the people now? What do we tell them what happened here? What, you know what I'm saying? How do we invite them into the process? That's what we have to leave here with tomorrow, inshallah, or early Sunday morning. We have to come and say, all right, somehow we're going to have to get through these kinds of issues and things. We got to come out with some outcomes, we're going to come up with some dates, and got to figure out how we're going to get there. We're going to have to go through the process and make it happen. Force us to think. Force us to think, and I say, as they say, I'm going to use it this way, think outside the masjid,
Inshallah.
okay?
Inshallah.
Back to Sister Bena's,
But Adam had his hand up, didn't he? I think he had his hand up.
back to Sister Bena's comments about connecting. Sister Bena, I know, like the rest of us, wants to connect the engine to transmission. You want to move. I understand. And I've already talked to you about this, Thomas, but I think it's time that maybe put it on the table and see what the group thinks in terms of.
That's how you do it.
Yeah.
That's how you do it.
I have been working on something separately, and I haven't made much progress because it's a big thing. It's a big project. It takes time, it takes resources, it takes effort, it takes collaboration. But one of the things that Thomas has listed up there, I believe is pivotal, I believe it's foundational, I believe it's so critical and so important that I would like to suggest it be the first project. Because if that's done, I believe it will put a major brick in place where other bricks can begin to come on top of it. I'm gonna stop being cryptic. We need a national resource director.
I agree.
Okay? A national resource director now. Thomas, can I have a few seconds?
No.
Okay. Let me come to the board for just a second. Remember we were talking about the group intellect, intelligentsia, all those things. We were also talking about one of the key areas that CWSC was supposed to try to address was to be a service to the believers. I can't think of a bigger service that we could be to the believers. All our schools, all our masajid, all our business people, everybody who is in the Association of Human Better Muhammad. Imagine if they could, online and offline, be able to access a National Resources Director. Now, this National Resource Director would be free, open source. I'm not talking about selling it to people.
All right, bro.
I'm talking about free.
That's
Okay?
major.
Now,
They tried it before, but it wasn't free.
it's more important online than it is offline. Now, I can't give you all of the, because we don't have, what we're missing here is young people. We don't have young people sitting here at the table.
That's key.
And
That's the other key.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. Then I'm being sexist. Sisters don't like to talk about age, but I'm talking about, I'm talking about 20, the people who are closest to the new technology that's coming out. I don't have access to that immediately either. But there are people who know how to do certain things with regard to database manipulation, database management, how to set up SQL language, and all this other stuff. But imagine if we could develop And it's never been done before. We've had attempts at it. But imagine if we could have an online resource where you could also print it if you wanted to PDF off of your computer. But you have an online resource by city, by state, by profession, by learning, by training, by degree, whatever.
That's huge. That's huge.
And you would be able to immediately tap into doctors, lawyers, accountants, publishers, writers, authors, whoever. In addition to, remember what I said, I'm not just talking about the traditional, what we call professionals. I would like anybody who believes that they have some talent, some skill, some knowledge or ability to feel like they can list themselves in this National Resource Directory. They could be a couple who's been married for 50 years. They are a resource for people who are looking to get married and people who are looking to stay married.
I do have to leave. I have a senior citizen I gotta go check on. Okay?
Okay. You see you tomorrow?
And what time in the morning?
5:30.
5:30.
5:30.
Be on time.
Yes,
The
sir.
old man will be here. And Charlotte.
Now, this is just, I'm like Thomas. I would prefer to work on this with a group. It doesn't have to be, if you don't believe that this is the project that could be the flagship project, that if we could get this done, then imagine the possibilities that will come from this. Finally, remember what we were talking about, imagine if, actually, I don't want to go too far into it, but I've given this a lot of thought, this National Resource Directory. But if we could get the National Resource Directory produced online at a website where you could access it, imagine the possibilities of being able, that's our intelligentsia right there. Imagine college students, retirees, blah, 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 you name it. You would finally have access, and masters would be able to contact these people, schools could contact them, anybody could contact them. That's just the first step, by the way.
I don't really mean to, be a wet towel or anything, but doesn't New Africa have that? They have a website? They have a resource?
They don't have anything like, it's I would call it rudimentary compared to what I'm talking about.
Out at Atlanta.
Yeah. I would call it rudimentary compared to what I'm talking about.
I'm on the list, I'm on the list of the
Yeah,
directory,
yes,
and no one's ever called me.
And it's a free listing.
And it's a free
It
listing,
is
so,
right. You see how that
I'm
there is-
calling it rudimentary compared to what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, you know how the biggest growth in technology has been with social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, all those type of sites, right? A lot of us are already listed in some of those sites, but we can't manipulate the data for those sites. In other words, we can't go behind the scenes and access it, right? Actually, the National Resource Directory, and I don't want to get too deep into it because it's not time, but National Resource Directory was just stage one of a larger plan. Just stage one of a larger plan. But if this National Resource Directory could be a directory that is aimed at any person who wants to be a volunteer, any person who wants to give a certain number of hours per year to assist in building the model community. Okay? So these are people who would self-list, but at the same time, you would be willing, that if a master called you, you would be willing to volunteer some of your time. You would work out with that master whether or not they're going to pay you for transportation or whatever, blah, blah. But just imagine if a master finally could get in touch with web developers, web designers, accountants. And these people are in this directory because they agree that, hey, I'll volunteer, 50 hours a year, 25 hours a year, 30 hours a year, whatever. Do you see the difference in what I'm talking about?
I see the difference in the charity, but, we gotta think about trusting each other and
You're right.
asking for each other's work,
Yes,
each
you're
other's
right.
services.
You're right.
You know, with that listing, like I said, I have not been called. I've been on that directory since it came up.
That's because it's, number one, it's a business directory. We're not talking about a business directory. Really what this is an association, national resource directory, for anybody who wants to help build the model community. And that, receiving that type of emphasis, not to mention the New Africa Directory doesn't receive the type of emphasis I'm talking about that would be received with this. This would be pushed. This would be marketed. This would be put out there as this is the tool to assist you in your masjid, to assist you in your school. And these people, this collection of people here, will volunteer time to help you.
See,
That's different. They don't have to necessarily even come physically to your city too, by the way. Again, we got all kind of technology.
the myth is, if you build a website, they will come. That's the myth.
That's the myth.
Myth. Companies, corporations have websites. And you still spend millions of dollars to drive traffic that way. Every time you see a commercial for a big company, come to so-and-so.com. They paid that advertising. They're driving traffic to their website. New Africa is not spending a dime to drive traffic to the website. So though it's there, nobody sees it. So if
And don't
If
forget,
you're
we
talking
got
about-
AM 360.
you're
That's
talking
a
about
1
driving
hour.
traffic to it, that's the big difference. In that, not taking things away from New Africa, I'm on there too.
Right.
But if nobody's going there to look for you, they're not gonna find you.
Yeah, well, you know, I'm talking about, well, we had, Brother Thomas, we talked about this on December 26th. I didn't even find out about it until June myself. Okay, so I had no idea it was even
Right.
being pushed that far. And let's look at the turnout that we got now from December with free advertising. I look at AM 360 almost as a way of having free advertising. Just when you get on, you just have a conversation. And with, I mean, anybody can get on there. It doesn't cost a dime to get on there. To me, that's source right there. I was thinking we were going to get a huge turnout here, really, because it's a way of getting, a way of communicating with each other. And we have
Can
a
I say
common
this?
interest
You-
on that, with that radio, long-time radio. There's a
We thought the
common-
same thing, but I would like to say at this point, praise be to Allah, we don't have 100, 200, 300 people. Allah knew better what we should be doing for the very first inaugural session. And I'm speaking from experience on that, David. We're speaking from experience because I have the benefit of the monitoring team experience behind me. He does too. And I know what was done successfully, and I know what failed. Not only with monitoring, but other ventures that we've had here inside the community. And I'm glad, praise be to Allah, that we have this skeleton crew, this small body, because this small body has to do the messy work of what we're doing right now. And then this small body is going to have to grow and take this concept to a larger body, to more people. You can't do that if you've got 100 or 200 or 300 people. Now, I didn't see that vision in the beginning. I didn't know until how many people had registered until I found out too. But I said, well, praise be to Allah. I said, because we're not ready for 200 or 300 people. We need a skeletal crew right now. If you think about it, we need a skeletal crew. So that we can begin to, we want to be efficient and effective. And sure, it takes time to do what we're doing right now. But a small group can do that and then take that to more people, take it to a larger group. And then you grow from the inside out rather than bringing a bunch of people here and that's why I brought up the issue of unmet expectations. If you bring 300 people here, we weren't ready for 300 people. We're not ready yet. We're trying to get the wheels onto the cart.
Well, really it goes back, this is being right in terms of actually, a lot of groups is out there, and we know that, the different organizations, whether it be the Women's Lib, or whether it be, I'm sorry, not women, the International
Right.
International
Women's
League.
League, Women's League, or New Africa, as you said, many others, and people just not going up and give you their data or their information, just like that. We should be able to exchange and see. But what we actually can, based on what Thomas is saying, I can't see why, if organizations out there, whether it's Mosque Cares, or whether it's NNBC, or whether it's the modeling team, it shouldn't be a problem why they couldn't actually give you a block to present what you need to present if we're in the same association. That won't take nothing away from them. That shouldn't take nothing away from anything else, you know. And if you got that, then that way when you have your meeting, then you got that many people to go there at your particular place whenever you had it. Then that way you got the people there, you got the professional people there, et cetera. So right now, at this point, I mean, we got 3,000 members in our association. We can have access to them across the country.
And that's the key, because this National Resource Directory is not something, although we may suggest the idea, it would be better if we could collaborate with Mosque, Muslim Journal, NMBC,
Right.
CLF,
Yes.
like for.
But
if
because
all
that'll
those
take nothing to him, because
institutions
all
and
thing that'll do
organizations-
is take his,
Right.
the people out of our group where they need to go, where he can compile, and by the time you get there within a year or two, he has a big crowd, he has a big group. Because we're sharing, we're in one community, we're not separate.
And this National Resource Directory is not for CWSC,
Right.
it's not for NMBC, it's
No,
not for
matter of fact-
Muslim Journal, it's for all of us as an association.
But there again, with their calendar of events, they're almost running into each other. And that's why sometimes the attendance is low, because
I agree.
one of them having an event this week, another one next week, and,
There were so many people to share.
yeah.
Well, the thing
There's only
is,
so many people gonna travel.
Yeah. Well, this doesn't require no travel, what I'm talking
I
about.
mean, from my perspective, it's not about numbers.
Yeah, I mean,
Even when Brother Thomas first preached it to me, it wasn't about numbers. It's about results. I don't think we need 2,000 or 3,000 people, because everybody's tracking 2,000 or 3,000 people. But what are they doing? It's about getting results.
No, everybody ain't trying to count their people.
But being as right, we do a certain amount,
Well,
we'd like to have a certain amount of
you know what
to
I'm
get those.
Yeah,
I
know what
was
you're
only
saying.
making
You
the
know what I'm
point
saying.
numbers because of the vehicle of AM 360.
We'll get the number. Oh, I'm saying what you're saying.
That's the only reason I was talking about the numbers.
But when we get organized, we'll get.
But being that there are other issues going on here, I mean, we're in one of the worst recessions the country has seen.
I understand. But people take the money to do what they want to do when they want
Yeah,
to
they
do
don't
it.
spend it where they want
It
to.
depends on what their interest
That's
is.
true.
It's like my interest, I looked at what this cost me this
Right.
weekend, I'm like, where did I even get this money? But Allah will make it happen. If you have a passion, you have a drive to do something, Allah makes things happen.
But
And we have
realistically,
to
there are
understand that.
competing interests. People just got out of Ramadan, some people went to the Ramadan session, they gotta get ready to go to the convention. So I'm simply saying, it's not always a situation where it's apathy or something. There are legitimate reasons why some people may not have the resources to be able to do all that they want to do. So what we have to do, what I'm thinking, is what CWSC has to find a way to allow people to plug into an infrastructure
Right.
that eliminates the barriers to participation, including travel, transportation, money, and fees and all. We need to figure out how we can get people plugged into an infrastructure to help their community. And if they have talents that they want to give back, that help could be coming to local, regional, even at the national level. The problem is that infrastructure has not been present. It's not there. And I'm simply saying with a national resource rate, that could be the beginning step of putting this national infrastructure in place so that we can plug into it. It has nothing whatsoever to do with the autonomy of a masjid, taking over, it ain't got nothing to do with those issues. This simply has to do with connecting people who want to help build this community.
Right. And we have to keep in mind too, we're from the same association here. We got nothing here different here. What are we talking about? We from the same association, and we should be collaborating, and we should be working together for the best interest of the community itself. And that's one reason why I say that I don't see a problem with America 360 and CWS coming in
We would send
of
letters
these
to those
organizations and saying, here go a room. I've got 1,000 people gonna be coming to my conference, what is Mosque as well.
Yeah.
Here go a room. Then present to the community
You know,
what you have.
there's something even simpler than that. There's something even simpler than that. For something like this, all we need is endorsements. It would be nice if we believe, if the NMBC, if Muslim Journal, if Mosque, if Community Life Forward, International League of Muslim Women, if the groups out of land, local, national groups, wherever they may be, masjids even, if they all said, you know what, a national resource directory is an excellent idea, and we support that. Just that alone would be a big help. If we could just get endorsements from all these different groups saying, let's build a national resource directory, we support it, here's the information on it. Because it's going to benefit everybody, it's going to be free, open source. I'm not talking about selling and charging.
Okay, you're using the language, the resource what is the difference between the resource and the business directory? Because the folks
Well,
don't come on every Sunday morning. at
I'll tell you
10 o'clock.
why. I'll tell you why.
And then.
Every Sunday
The
morning,
very-
the folks will
the
come